some people like to post fake celebrity deaths. You guys gotta stop doing that. I'm tired of getting my hopes up. Yeah. Well, today, my mom doing science. You know, 'cause she's so cringe. She's such a nerd. I love you guys. Here's my mom. Like and subscribe, okay? I love you. Let me hit the gong. Hey everybody, how you doing today? My name's Vicky King, and welcome to King Gone Crazy. Today we're going to look at even weirder science experiment that went terribly wrong. Here we go. Project Artichoke.
Of government projects. Here we go with Project Artichoke. You ever seen The Manchurian Candidate? You ever read that book? Great book. Now, Project Artichoke was the government's way of trying to make people carry out assassinations and missions against their will by messing with their brain. They tried torture methods, they tried isolation methods, they even tried getting people intentionally addicted to drugs to see if the withdrawals would help them. They used cocaine, marijuana, heroin, peyote, mescaline, and LSD, but LSD had the most promise. One of the agents that was tested on this was kept on LSD for 77 days. That's insane. And if you look up here, they say, can we get him to control an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature such as self-preservation? So how do we get this man to do our murders and our assassinations for us and not even care about his own life? And by the way, this testing was done on U.S. citizens and CIA agents. What?
A couple of weeks ago, a man had planned to shoot up a theme park in Denver, Colorado. Instead, he turned the gun on himself and left a note that said, "I am not a killer." It just kind of makes me wonder, was he a project? I don't know.
Josef Mengele, nicknamed the
I've heard of him. I'm sure you have too.
Angel of Death, was one of the most gruesome doctors at the biggest Nazi death camp, Auschwitz. Mengele was in charge of choosing which prisoners would be murdered immediately and which ones he wanted to use for his sinister experiments. He would inject needles and chemicals into the eyes of his victims in an attempt to change their eye color. After they died, he would remove their eyes and hang them on his wall. He would deliver babies and then order the mother's breasts to be bound so that he could see how long a newborn baby could survive without food. After days of the baby suffering, he would throw it into an oven. Mengele was fascinated with twins and would infect one twin with disease and then transfuse the blood to the second twin to see who would die first. He even sewed twins together limb by limb to create his own conjoined twins. After hearing this, you wouldn't ever want to...
I don't even have words for this one.
Stateville Penitentiary Malaria Study, a horrifying tale of exploitation. During the throes of the Second World War, a grim experiment was unfolding behind the walls of Stateville Penitentiary. In a bid to find a cure for malaria, which was decimating between 60 to 65% of American troops on the front line, scientists turned to an unlikely and unwilling group of test subjects, the inmates. The prisoners, mostly black men, were not fully informed of the risks, nor the nature.
So how do you feel about that? I mean, what percentage back then of the people were innocent that were in prison? And I'm not saying that just because someone is in prison that they should be tortured. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is there were a lot of innocent people in prison before DNA tests. It's disturbing.
The experiments they were partaking in. They were promised shortened sentences, only to be met with debilitating symptoms and lifelong health issues. The experiment was a glaring example of the exploitation of a vulnerable population, stripped of their rights and treated as mere guinea pigs. Stateville Penitentiary Malaria Study, a horrifying tale of...
They really gave them no choice. Wow. That's really messed up. In the name of science.
Know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Oh, the Philadelphia experiment. We've all heard of this one.
This is the legend of the Philadelphia experiment, the U.S. government's attempt during World War II to make an entire ship disappear. Theorists say that disturbing things happened to the sailors on board. According to witnesses, on October 28, 1943, the USS Eldridge, a Cannon-class destroyer, was being used for top-secret experiments that could change the tides of the war. The rumor was the U.S. government had come up with a cloaking technology that could render any ship invisible to radar. And in the Philadelphia shipyard that day, it was time to test it out. Witnesses say as the Eldridge powered up, an eerie green energy field surrounded the ship, and then it disappeared. The ship was then spotted in a Virginia shipyard and then teleported back to Philadelphia. Some went insane, and some got a mysterious illness. But worst of all, some of the sailors were said to have gotten fused to the ship. Many of them still alive as they were cutting them free. For more on the story, check part 2.
Wait a minute. What year did Nikola Tesla die? January 7th, 1943. This happened in October of 1943. They stole his information. I guarantee, I can't prove it. I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that they got this from Nikola Tesla. The government took many, many, many boxes of information. I'm just saying, you know. Makes sense?
Terrifying experiments caught on tape. The Edgewood Arsenal experiment. Between the years of 1948 and 1975, the United States Army conducted a set of human experiments that tested the effects of chemical warfare agents. Over 7,000 soldiers were tested on and exposed to various different chemicals. These chemicals were low doses and therefore didn't cause any immediate harmful side effects, but they did take a toll on the soldiers' mental states. A large amount of these soldiers were not given informed consent forms, meaning they did not know exactly what they were taking part in. On top of this, little to no care was offered after the experiments, which meant that any long-term effects were not treated by the same people who caused them. These experiments were eventually terminated in the mid-70s, and the people who ran the experiments were scrutinized, and many of them were sued for essentially using the soldiers as guinea pigs. The fact that the experiments was also kept a secret raised public concern that the US Army was conducting more controversial experiments in complete secrecy.
How sick is that? You had men signing up for war, and women. I mean, it was more men back then. And they don't even know what you're doing to them. That's really messed up. You know, when my son came back after boot camp, and I was washing some of his clothes, you know, and I put his uniform in, a bunch of uniforms, t-shirts, you know, all the stuff that he came back with. So I washed it, I put it in the dryer, and the house filled up with this gas. And we had to leave. And we had to bring in an ionizer to clear the air in our house. And he's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, my clothes hadn't been washed from the gas chamber. So just washing them and drying them in the house, it was toxic to us. Can you imagine what these poor guys went through? It's really, gosh, our government's messed up. This is why I don't trust the system.
February 1956. In the heart of New York, Operation Big City was underway. A Ford Mercury, specially adapted with a hidden exhaust pipe, pumped out bacteria onto the streets of Manhattan.
Bacteria. It was pumping out bacteria.
Undercover agents entered the city's subway system. Their cases equipped with tiny motors, which covertly dispersed the bacteria Bacillus globuli. 10 years later, the Army returned. Light bulbs filled with bacteria were dropped in front of trains and down ventilation shafts to test how far the bacteria would spread through the subway system. For years, these public experiments were kept secret from the citizens of New York. The Army faithfully filmed its own experiments.
How in good conscience could our government do that to us? Just more and more proof that they don't care. They're putting stuff in the sky, using a car with an exhaust to spread bacteria. Gosh, it's so messed up. It's just pure evil. In the name of science.
Experiments performed in the United States, committed in the name of science. Number 6, the Boston Project. Working with the Oak Ridge National Laboratory from 1953 to 57, Dr. William Sweet, who was the chief neurosurgeon at Harvard's Massachusetts General Hospital, gave uranium injections to 11 cancer patients who were terminally ill, with all but one reportedly suffering from brain tumors.
So these people are there thinking they're getting treated for cancer. And he's experimenting on them?
Dr. Sweet was interested in learning how the distribution of uranium affected the body and whether it could be used to treat tumors. In 1995, under testimony, Dr. Sweet claimed he had consent from all his patients for his experiments. However, a lack of supporting documents, as well as the case of one patient who was found unconscious and later died without regaining consciousness or being identified, makes those claims slightly dubious.
Wow. Just when I think things couldn't have gotten any more messed up. They do.
Experiments on the daughter. Project Abigail. After the war, in 1948, a considerable number of classified documents from Reich's scientific laboratories fell into the hands of the Americans. Some of them were related to the development of what was called a superhuman. This was meant to be the perfect soldier, strong, resilient, impervious to pain, fearless, and unconditionally loyal to its creators. It was decided to initiate research in this direction. Dr. Albert Wester was appointed to lead the project. This scientist had already made significant progress, but they needed to be tested on a human subject. This posed a serious problem. A random person, let alone a criminal, was unsuitable for this purpose. They needed an educated, motivated candidate who would unquestioningly trust Wester. However, there were no volunteers at all because the idea of creating a superhuman even in the mid-20th century was met with skepticism. Moreover, everyone knew that the experiment would be dangerous, and no one knew what the outcome would be. Therefore, after much thought, Albert Wester decided to conduct the experiment on his own daughter, Abigail Wester.
How could you do that to your own child?
The young woman was a college student and often assisted her father in his work. Eventually, she was isolated in one of the chambers at Area 51 and the transformation into a superhero began. Various substances, both hormonal and highly classified, were administered to her. Soon, she started to change physically. Abigail grew taller, her skin wrinkled, and her jaws became more massive. Within a few months, the creature only vaguely resembled a human. It began to lose its sanity, increasingly displaying aggression and acting like an animal. All of this continued for 2 years and ended in complete failure. Abigail became stronger than several men combined, and her height reached 3 meters. However, the creature could not follow any commands as it had completely lost its human consciousness. Realizing this, Albert Wester made the decision to end his own existence. In his note, he requested that his daughter be kept alive, even if her sanity couldn't be restored. The military decided not to touch Abigail and simply stopped providing food and water to her chamber. Everyone thought that the mutant would gradually fade away, but things turned out differently. The creature managed to break the door, resulting in the unfortunate demise of 2 guards. Attempts to capture Abigail ended in failure, and no one has seen the monster since. However, some believe that even after 70 years, the creature still resides in the vicinity of Area 51. There is an opinion that the tight security measures around Area 51 are due to the danger of encountering Abigail, deterring unwanted visitors.
Okay. I'm not so sure. I don't know. This one kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty messed up if you would offer your own daughter for an experiment like this. I don't know. There's so many things that we don't know. I mean, everything that we do know is a hypothesis. Who knows what they can do? I don't know. It's messed up if it's true. It's really sick.
Now, that brain that you gave me, was it Hans Delbrooks? No. Ah, good. Would you mind telling me whose brain I did put in?
And you won't be angry?
I will not be angry.
Abby someone.
Abby someone. Abby who?
Abby Normal.
Abby Normal.
I'm almost sure that was the name.
Scientific experiments in history was carried out by Dr. Joseph Mengele.
Joseph Mengele again. His name comes up a lot.
This fine man carried out an experiment on the prisoners. He took them and froze them. He threw them into a pool or something like that. Generally, the place he put them was exceedingly cold and icy. He added ice and chemicals to freeze the location where the prisoners were. Those who were experimented on had all their internal and external organs frozen. You think Joseph stopped there? No, he tried a second experiment. The same fate as the first one, everything failed. His aim was to come up with an invention. Can he keep this human life alive through freezing? This thing is inhumane. Not if they are prisoners, then their lives go like this in experiments. Tell me what you think in the comments.
Wow. Nobody ever talks about the good scientists, though. Like Royal Rife, Nikola Tesla. They just get swept under the rug. They don't teach about them in high school. I didn't hear about Tesla until college. I knew nothing about him. Nor did I know anything about Royal Rife until then. Wow. So we're going to suppress the good ones and, make the bad ones famous. I guess that's how it works. That's all I have for this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you could give me a like and subscribe, I could really, really use it. I'm still trying to get out there. And if there's anything that you would like to see, let me know. Drop it down in the comments and I'll do it. Have an amazing day, guys. Bye.